remember Simon once said that there's a great distinction between optimism and blind positivity.
When you look at people as capital or numbers, rather than people to lead and inspire and rally around your vision and your purpose, or even just your project, people don't need to see a perfect leader. They need to see a human being who owns mistakes and then shifts and course corrects. And that's where trust builds.
It's not always easy to present myself to them the way I am in real life, because it might look unprofessional. Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Yourself podcast, the podcast on expressing our true selves. Today my guest is Jerry Rice. He's a founder, chief communication consultant at Tux Communications. He deals with employee engagement, works a lot with business leaders. So Jerry, thanks a lot for joining the show.
Yeah, really happy to be here, Sergey. Love the podcast concept and love your work.
Great. I think we will talk a lot about authenticity today. But before we dive into authenticity and how it helps being great leaders, I want to ask you, are you also, as Simon Sinek, an unshakable optimist?
I think that's the first word in my LinkedIn profile. It's not professional. It says optimist first. So absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and his work, his Optimism podcast I listen to. I just saw the latest episode popped up overnight, so I got to check that one out too. But absolutely. Yeah, I think there's so much to be optimistic about in the world. You can definitely go down a path that's the opposite of that, but I don't think that's very useful. So I love to see, love to pay attention to what the future holds and where optimism is. And there are a lot of parts of the world where that's challenging right now.
Yeah.
But if you really dig down and look, there are so many great things, heading into 2026. And it's hard to shake that optimism for me.
I remember Simon once said that there's a great distinction between optimism and blind positivity. You know, like sometimes people say we're in the mud, within the shithole, but everything is beautiful. Let's just sit here. No, optimism is actually recognizing that you're in the shithole, but if you do something right, you'll definitely get out of this shithole to a better place.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's about finding the right ways to push forward. You look at things like the political climate in some countries and you're not loving it, right? But what are you going to do about it? You're not just going to say, oh, everything's great, I'm going to wait for it to pass. You're going to find ways to fight for what you believe in and kind of figure it out and kind of turn that around. So I agree with him 100%. You can't just sit and watch what's going on around you blindly. Your optimism should be kind of pointed toward a vision for a better future for everybody.
I think that optimism is born when you are really passionate about something. Do you think it's a fair statement?
I do. For me, I started my professional career working in nonprofits, and that really ingrained in me this idea of working toward a purpose. So I worked in education. I worked for a science education museum. I worked for an organization called Feeding America, where we helped feed people who were struggling, especially when I joined. It was during the kind of financial crash post 2008, 2009 in the US, where lots of people needed food assistance. And that just ingrained in me this idea that working toward a purpose makes you more passionate about what you do. And it just unlocks a different level of work. I took that into the corporate world, and I still love to see people find the why behind what they're doing in their work. And I just think that creates a better atmosphere. It also creates a stronger business. So you're more successful as a nonprofit, or you're more profitable as a business when your employees deeply care about what you do and they understand why and how their work connects to the bigger picture.
And you're saying that in these early experience feeding the homeless or whoever, you felt this connection with this big purpose.
Yeah, you feel a connection to what you're doing. I've worked in communications for more than 20 years, but that work has changed depending on what type of organization. So it was focused on fundraising, bringing awareness to the need for food assistance for middle-class families in 2010, 2011, when they were generally considered pretty safe. They were finding themselves at food pantries, food banks, as they lost jobs during the Great Recession. So connecting yourself to a bigger purpose. Lately I've been working in pharmaceutical industry, biotech, healthcare, an environmental company right now. Yeah. And there's something to connect your work to every day to see that you're advancing something that's meaningful. And I like to do that for the rest of the workforce as well, not just myself.
And that's actually what you decided to devote your life to, working with employees and engaging them more.
Yeah, that didn't click for me until I had been in the workforce for maybe 10, 12 years. I knew I had this connection to purpose, but when I went to work for Eli Lilly around 2014, I worked for their animal health business, and I kind of it hit me like a lightning bolt. Like I saw the connection between employees, purpose, and their work. And I saw that. I kind of thought back to my dad and his work. He worked a very hard job. He was a welder, machinist, and he worked these really tough, dirty jobs his whole life. And they were honestly kind of miserable jobs because they didn't do a good job of connecting him to something bigger. But he went to work for Argonne National Laboratory. That's part of the Department of Energy in the US. And they did a really good job of helping him understand how his work connected to a bigger purpose, a bigger picture. So all these, potential future new energy sources, renewable energy, things like that. He's still doing the same dirty job. He was welding magnets for a big particle accelerator, but he understood what that meant in terms of what scientists from around the world were going to be able to do in terms of new discoveries around energy and more efficient ways to use energy. And that just changed the way he looked at work. So he just became much more interested. He talked to us about it all the time. He actually wanted to take us there and show us and what he was doing. And I love that idea of taking someone's perspective about work. It's just a job, and turning it around into something that they're really interested in, passionate about, and maybe it could even help themselves kind of advance their career, which he was able to do there. So really, really good stuff.
I had someone on my show who says that doing something that you're passionate about is a myth. There's always something he believes that you totally hate about your job, but you need to do it, right? What's your opinion on that? Aren't we romanticizing work when we try to sell vision, purpose, or stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a point there, but I think I reject the idea that kind of selling purpose and passion doesn't matter. When you're passionate and purposeful about your work, those things that you have to do that you don't love, and there are plenty of those for me in my kind of job, in my role, they're worth doing, right? So you push through those hard moments. And for me, it's the political piece of working within a company. You're working for budget. You're, kind of competing for other people to get your ideas funded and kind of bring those to life. I don't love that part of the job. I love executing and doing creative things. That piece of it, not my favorite, but it is worth it when you're leading a team, when you're trying to help others be purposeful and passionate about their work, and you need budget for a tool that's going to help you do that, or a campaign that's going to help you do that. It becomes worth the effort, and you can get past that and do a better job with it, even if you don't love it.
And I think Simon once said that even when you do presentation and you request a budget, you can tie it with your bigger picture, which makes it, which actually translates business talk into human language.
Exactly.
Basic human language that we all understand.
And that's a great point. Yeah. When you love what you do,
Yeah.
you can talk about it in a way that people understand.
Yeah.
You don't have
Make
to use
difficult concepts sound really simple. Isn't that what it's all about? Yeah. Your ideas will go viral when they're really simple, right, Jerry?
Absolutely. Yeah, you ditch the jargon, right? Like you don't need the $30 words, the $10 words. You just, basic language that helps connect people to your bigger picture, vision, and strategy and purpose. And, you can just talk like a human being. You don't have to talk like a business robot. Unless you're in an investor call, then maybe you need to talk like a financial business robot. But when you're talking to your people, that's not necessary.
What are some recent cases or maybe examples where you had to work with, let's call them tough business people, tough managers? Maybe something that you can tell us where you had to kind of overcome whatever difficulty, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I think where I typically butt heads with people is when they have an older school mindset, and that doesn't mean that they're older generation. That can come straight out of business school with someone younger with their MBA. They're coming in, they want to be lean and mean, and it's all about the numbers. And you forget about the people. You look at people.
What did they teach in these big business schools after all?
There are courses that teach what we're talking about, the authenticity and leadership piece, but some people go the financial track and they ignore some of that stuff. Maybe that's ditch day or something like that, and they're more focused on the finance piece. But when you look at people as capital, right, or numbers, rather than people to lead and inspire and rally around your vision and your purpose, or even just your project. I had a great conversation with this gentleman named John Hoffman a few weeks ago, and we were talking about production projects. He works in the production field, and he was talking about how few leaders come through on a movie project or an event and just tell the workers, like, here's what you're producing this for. Like, here's what you're doing. Here's why you're carrying this, or here's why you're setting up a craft station, of food for actors. Like, this is what we're all working towards. So few people in that industry, he said, think to do that. He comes in and does that and looks like a rock star. So, those things, like, I can't stress enough how important it is to connect people to. It doesn't have to be some amazing nonprofit purpose. It can just be, what is the project going to look like at the end of the day? And that was, back to the story of my dad. Like, once he understood why he was working 60-hour weeks welding magnets in a 100 degree room, for hours on end, he felt better about it when he came home exhausted. And he still had energy left at the end of the day.
Meaningful work. Wow. Okay. You mentioned authentic leadership. I think I really like this word conjunction, authentic leadership. And I also once one of my guests told that the real leadership is, he used the word inspirational leadership. How can we become better leaders, Jerry?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the word authenticity. So some people think that an inspiring leader has to look like a movie speech, right? Like, you come in and everybody's cheering at the end and it's amazing. But really, it's more about, authenticity, helping link people to something bigger than themselves and even bigger than you, and being consistent in updating them on how you're doing, right? Whether it's good or bad. And that's where the authenticity piece comes in, right? You're not rah when things are not great. Like, you're an optimist, but you're pointing out the things that need to change. So, it goes back to the very start of our conversation. You don't have to be perfect, right? You're going to make mistakes and you need to own those mistakes. Yeah. People don't need to see a perfect leader. They need to see a human being who owns mistakes and then shifts and course corrects. And that's where trust builds. So that authenticity piece is just so important, but it's lost on a lot of people who just come in with a speech and think that, that's what's going to rally the troops. They just need that 5 minutes in front of everybody and they're just going to love it. And that's not really true. It's more about consistency and authenticity and simplifying things, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk for hours about this topic. I mean, because it speaks to me because I really want to build my team, because I have a production team who produce videos, run YouTube for people, and you know, it's not always easy to present myself to them the way I am in real life, because it might look unprofessional. Because a lot of times I'm playful, I'm making fun of myself, openly. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe sometimes they expect me to know all the answers, and I say, hey guys, right now we're in a bit of a crisis, in a bit of a slump. We're looking for more customers right now. I say, hey, I'm doing my best, work with me, just be with me, and you will be rewarded. So I'm taking this transparent approach, even when the shit hits the fan.
That's a great, and that's a fantastic approach to make sure everyone understands where you are and what the priorities are, right? So if you're all trying to get new business and it's not just on your shoulders, and the team understands that, hey guys, I need you right now. I need your ideas. I need, what can we do? And I've been with large organizations who've had amazing years, like just record years, 30% growth. And then a couple of years later, right, we're struggling because the market shifted. It had nothing to do with the employees or the leadership. It was just everyone's investing, all those like investment dollars just went somewhere else. And suddenly,
and
like,
companies still need to pay money, and there might be some layoffs because of that, right? It's really
exactly.
This is the thing that's overtaking corporate America right now, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there is that. There's definitely, sometimes a need for layoffs, and you have to be really, really open and honest with not only the people, and respectful, not only with the people that you're, letting go for your company as you thank them for their hard work and wish them well, but with the people who are still there, about, what that means for the company, shoring up finances for the mission and the company to survive, and for the people who are still there to, continue to get paid and do good work. I think what's happening in the US is a little bit of like this annual cycle of, we're just going to lay off a percentage of the workforce to keep profitability. So you're seeing a little bit of that kind of drive layoffs in the US as well. But there are real, business reasons, sometimes where you do have to reduce your workforce, and there are things that you need to do for the staff that remain to make sure that they're continue to be engaged and less fearful about their own futures.
I saw your profile on Subs and checked a few videos. You said an interesting thing, that employees work better when they feel taken care of.
Yes.
So I think I want to ask the question, how to better take care of your employees. But I'm going to ask you, how do we make, as leaders, how do we make them feel like they're taken care of?
Yeah. There are a few things you can do. It depends on kind of where you are in the organization. If you're a senior leader, right, and you're making the financial decisions, how are you dedicating budget to developing people so that they can advance their careers and better themselves? How are you, dedicating budget to benefits and things for the employees themselves? And then as you get further down into more of a frontline manager position, are you asking your people if they're okay? Like, are you asking your people what they need? Because you have a lot of workers that I've had tough conversations with managers where, I'm trying to help a senior leader get their message out, right? They want to talk about, all the stuff that we're doing in the community and stuff that's great, right? You'd want everybody to know. But at the end of the day, the manager is telling me that my people are coming in and they're just trying to get their job done and clock out on time so they can pick their kids up from daycare. So what do I tell them when we want to, have them sit down and watch a video or something like that? And so you have to be, realistic, give them the resources that they need, I think is a big one, because I think a lot of people are feeling the crunch right now as they see some of their coworkers get laid off, like making sure that you're prioritizing what is really important, so people don't feel like I've got to cram 100 hours of work into 50, there are probably things that you can just make go away, right? If your workforce has been reduced. So there are a lot of ways to make people cared for, but it is so important at every single level to make sure that you're all on the same page and building a culture that does care for its people.
Communication goes a long way, and transparency. I remember HubSpot's culture code. One of the points was transparency doesn't equal democracy.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I do. Yeah. I think, you get paid the big dollars as a leader, or, you're profiting as a leader by making decisions. Like, that's on your shoulders. You should be talking to the experts that you've hired. And again, like I had mentioned to you, making people feel needed. Well, they are needed, right? You're a CEO. You're not a marketing expert. You're not a sales expert. You're not a manufacturing expert. You have people who have that expertise who can help you make and get to the right decisions. But yeah, it's not a democracy. You're getting paid to make those decisions, and those decisions rest on your shoulders.
Yeah. And I think Bezos told that executives are getting paid to make a small number of important decisions. That's the only job, to make important decisions.
Yeah. They're really important decisions. I've worked with the C-suite over my 20 years. I've probably spent the majority of them working with, people at the CEO or the dean level of universities. And those small decisions really do shape the entire direction of the company. Which product are we going to invest in? Are we going to build a new manufacturing site? Like, we have a lot of demand. Should we allow that to sit as a backlog, or are we going to build new facilities and spend capital? Those decisions make or break a company.
Yeah. Speaking of the lessons that you learned along the way, would you mind sharing a few?
Yeah. Number one, own your mistakes. So early in my career, I did not have a lot of exposure in my personal life after college or before college to like an office environment. And I thought, you've got to walk in and you've got to be perfect. And I think a lot of young people feel that way, and some people never grow out of that. But as I went along, I had some really good managers and some really good conversations about owning your mistakes, and not just owning them, but like bringing them to their attention proactively so that you can do something about it. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're learning something from that and you're going to change the way that you do things going forward, it's a positive for the organization. Like, we all learn from mistakes, and even surfacing those for the entire team. Like, I got really comfortable if I made a mistake somewhere along the way, not just telling my boss, but telling the entirety of the team, so that they don't have to go through what I went through. They can learn from that, and we all get better. And so that's number one. Number two, authenticity and transparency, like we talked about earlier. I cannot overstate how important that is for senior leaders, because I've seen the senior leaders who do that really well, and then things in the company maybe start not going as well, but they're still trying to kind of bring everyone along as if nothing has changed. And that backfires every single time, because people feel it no matter what part of the organization. Like, you feel that the manufacturing floor is a little slower. You feel that the overtime has gotten a little slim. Like, you feel like those orders aren't coming in. If you're sitting in sales, you feel more pressure when you're in marketing. And if your senior leader is still talking as if everything is really rosy, and your entire organization is seeing all the little pieces adding up that it's not, you lose a lot of credibility. So the openness, the authenticity, the transparency, you got to level with people and tell them, where you are. So I would say those two things, incredibly important, especially for people in leadership roles.
And speaking of inspirational deeds or inspirational actions, have you seen something that you really remember till now? Examples of really cool things that leaders did to inspire others?
I worked for Eli Lilly and I worked for their animal health business. And within that, we had a major acquisition. So we purchased Novartis's animal health business. We were competitors of the same size and we were bringing the two companies together. And some of the things that leadership decided to do, I, to this day, think really made that a successful acquisition and a successful integration. And it was about culture building. A lot of acquisitions, the thought is, how are we going to reduce headcount? Because we probably have 2 salespeople in this territory. They didn't look at it that way. They looked at it as, how are we going to build this culture, bring two different cultures together and really rally around a purpose. And so they actually looked to Simon Sinek and a toolkit through his book and helped people find their why. And it didn't have to be something connected to the company's why. It could actually just be your personal why. So that could have been, my personal why is to make sure that my kids can go to college and don't have to take out big student loans. And I want to advance here at the company in order to financially be able to do that. And that just kind of set them up to think that way about, like, what is my own kind of personal purpose. And then we brought in a photographer and an artist that, and I wish I could remember the name of the photographer, but essentially you wrote down your why, like your why statement, like on a part of your body. So your arm, some people actually did it on their face, took these really cool black and white photos. So you had this like constant reminder of your why and kind of putting that in writing, and this entire ritual, and then a really beautiful photograph at the end. And I just thought that was such a cool thing to invest money in. And we did that all over the world. It was a global company. So we did that at headquarters. We did that in Brazil. We did it in Switzerland. So it just, everyone was sort of connected. And I just thought that was a cool thing that had nothing to do with business or the company, but really putting, something authentic out there for its people. So I just thought that was really cool.
Why can be only one why, right? And it mostly has to do with our past. And he also speaks about just cause, I guess, right? So we have one why and one just cause. So your why, right, Jerry?
Absolutely, yeah. My why really is around unlocking people's potential through helping connect them to something bigger. And sometimes I'll say that a little differently, but essentially, why are you doing what you're doing at work every day? How can we unlock your potential, your creativity, your innovation, your ability to do your job better by connecting you to the bigger picture? And whether that's purposeful or whether it's just project-based, people who know why they do what they do it better.
Because I'm thinking about why right now, inevitably, I now have these thoughts talking to you. Maybe this is the magic that you do, but just people start thinking about it. And, I felt a few times that I captured my why, and as I go through life, it seems like I uncover yet another deeper, meaningful thing, So I kind of struggle to articulate my why so easily like Simon does. Like he wants to inspire people to do what inspires them, right? Super. Like mine, I don't have the right words to articulate it, but I kind of understand. Maybe this is just where language does not catch up quite yet.
Yeah, and I think it could change. I mean, my why when I really first started thinking about it was, it was all about feeding hungry people, but it was about feeding hungry people in a literal sense in terms of
it's very practical. Yeah,
I had worked for a hunger relief agency, but as I got more into the business world, feeding hungry people kind of transformed into feeding hungry people in terms of feeding their kind of inner energy and inner hunger to understand more about the world and do better. And then that sort of transformed into what I just shared about helping people unlock their potential by connecting to something bigger. And so I think it can sort of transform. And I think you'll get to whatever that right statement is. But it feels like you've got something in here that you're tapping into that makes you tick. So that's the starting point.
Yeah. And speaking of vulnerability, I think Simon also said that, I think, was it Brené Brown who popularized this concept of vulnerability, one of the most viewed TED Talk. And, I always felt that vulnerability is just being a bit sensitive, or whatever, admitting your mistakes. But I think what Simon said is that you can be confident in your vulnerability. Not present it as a weakness, right? So I don't know if authentic people are all showing off their vulnerability, because I think authenticity might be not, talk more about your kids. This is what you care about, or something like that. So it's also it's an interesting concept, to look from different angles, Jerry.
I agree. I think the best leaders are able to be more vulnerable and authentic. I can be vulnerable and say that I'm still working on that for me. There are times where I feel like I can lay it all bare, and there are times where the ego gets in the way, and you feel like you need to be a little more rigid and protective. Maybe you're not feeling as. But I think that happens to everybody, and and I've worked with people at a $4 billion company, leading a $4 billion company. Everyone would look to this person as so confident and so collected and, so authentic and so vulnerable, and always, never doubting themselves. And that's never the case. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, and that there are decisions that keep him up at night right now about the fate of that company and ESPN and the streaming model and the future of media and entertainment. So it's everywhere. And vulnerability is something, it's something that you're constantly working on, because we're not wired that way. We're wired to protect ourselves first.
Yeah, Bob Iger is monumental figure. I think the things that he achieved, but he's made some, I think, controversial decisions as far as recent something of this kind. I'm not sure. I know the recent news, but there was something about it. Right?
Yeah. The decisions with ESPN, I think, are what are in the news right now. But I'm not going to try to pretend that I'm an expert on the media space and second guess what he's trying to navigate right now. I think he's built Disney into something pretty special.
Yeah. He knows what he's doing. Yeah. Absolutely. And as we're wrapping up, one of the reasons why I started the show is the overwhelming problem that young people have who don't know what they want to do in life. And a lot of people say that your hobby cannot become your profession. Like, hobby has to be like a separate thing. And when I talk to artists, like DJs or actors, they say, why not? I made my hobby a profession and I'm happy, So... Mm-hmm. So what's your advice to people who are still finding that's something that they want to do, that they want to get up in the morning and just go do without money and without food?
My advice would be try things. Don't discount things that you think you won't be interested in or won't like. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I got out of college. My goal, coming from a working family where not very many people had graduated from college, was just to go to college and get a bachelor's degree. And I stumbled into a job working at Northwestern University because the HR person was very, very kind to a person who had applied for a job that was way out of my league. So thought that there was potential for me for a lower position, an entry-level position, to come in and work. And once I was in that environment, I started to see really successful people and what they could do. I took advantage of their program that helped me pay for a graduate degree. So I was able to get a master's degree from their School of Communication, and then kind of turned it into a communications career. But I had no idea, so I just kind of, looked for opportunities, and every chance I got to, progress in my career, I kind of jumped at it. And sometimes it was scary. A nonprofit, you don't get paid a lot, but you get a lot of responsibility at a young age. And so I was working with very senior leaders in my, mid to late 20s that, it's sometimes absolutely terrified me. So what I would say is just try things, like don't say no to opportunities. But if there's something you're passionate about that is a hobby that you want to turn into more, you don't have to give that up either. I have like 3 or 4 different irons in the fire almost at all times. And that's served me very well to be able to pursue the one that's most interesting.
Cool. Thanks for this advice and for this amazing conversation, Jared.
Absolutely. No, this has been great. Thanks for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
You're looking for a quality video production provider? Look no further. My name is Sergey and I own Beverly Production. We are a video production agency from Ukraine. We help entrepreneurs to create credible online, offline podcasts and clips that drive interest, to promote your podcast. As a podcaster myself, I early realized that there are not that many podcasts that put an emphasis on quality and creativity, just making your videos look really, really cool. That's why we mix our videos up with different visual aids, sound effects, flashy transitions. We do dynamic switching and other cool creative things that just set apart your podcast from your competition. You can check our samples on the website, and we also help people to post the videos. So we take over YouTube management, and we can also run TikTok and LinkedIn for you. So if you're interested in something of this kind, don't hesitate to book a call with me. The contacts are available on the website. Thanks a lot.